Hey guys, I remembered my sign this time, finally. I guess I'm just not supposed to be a sign person, because I never remember it. Even though I love this sign a lot, I just never remember it. Just remember to stick it in front of me when I turn on the videos. But I remembered this time. So this is going to be a part 2 of the doll making, and it's most likely going to be a short video because, well, it could be long. I don't know. It's gonna be another boring video though. If you don't want to watch, I understand. So there were a bunch of things I did to the doll off camera because they, either took a long time to dry. Yeah, I guess that would be it because it took a long time to dry. Alright, so what I did, first of all, I finished her paper mache on the arm, sanded her down somewhat, but I still need to do, sorry, adjusting the camera. I still need to do a little bit of sanding. I added feet because her proportions were off, and these are more of those weird wood things. I don't know what they are. I used E6000 to glue them onto these bars here, but it wasn't very stable, even though E6000 is a strong glue, because it was on essentially a metal bar. There just wasn't a whole lot for it to hang on to because there's these big holes, so it only had a tiny space on each side to hold on to it. I could have done it on this side, but I liked this for the bottom better. It looked more like feet to me. So what I ended up doing was I pulled out my super duper boiling hot glue gun and I filled them up. Filled up the wooden pieces, and then I put a layer over top of the bar, and it gives it more stability. And then this white thing on the bottom here is actually a music box. And I glued that down on there with E6000. And sorry, I'm just waiting for the music to go. Okay. Sorry. I guess I turned it too many times. I wanted this to be a musical doll from the start, so that's why I have that on there. And I got this for free in a bag of garbage that an antique store gave me also, just like she gave me this lampshade for free and she gave me the doll for free. And so yeah, anyways, so that's what I did. Like I said, I sanded her down a little bit, but then I finished off with the paper mache, so I've still got some sanding to do. What I've been using are these cheapy nail files. You can buy a pack of them for cheap. Using a sheet of sandpaper or even having it on a block, a sanding block, doesn't quite work because there's a lot of small crevices you have to get into. So a sanding block wouldn't work because it's too bulky, and just having sandpaper won't work because it's too flimsy, I guess you could say. You've got to have something hard. These aren't that hard, but they're obviously harder than just a sheet of paper, sandpaper, because this paper mache, when it dries, even though it's not the strongest material in the world, it is quite hard, and you definitely need some kind of strength behind the sandpaper, and these do clog up with the paper dust quite easily and fast, so you definitely want to use something that's cheap and disposable. So I'm gonna finish up sanding, and basically I'm not looking for sheer perfect smoothness. You just basically want to get her smooth enough so that once you put on the fabric, it doesn't look like she has cellulite all over her body. So, yeah. So you basically just want to get any really noticeable lumps sanded down. And this celluclay, which, like I said, it's just paper mache, but it's been pulverized into a powder. You cannot sand this until it is completely dry, and how you tell that is when you touch it. It shouldn't feel cold to the touch at all. If you feel any coldness or obviously any dampness, it's still wet, and if you try and sand it when it's wet, your big chunks will come out from the paper mache. Like, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but I had sanded her when she was still a little bit wet, and this big chunk came out here. So, you know, you definitely need to give this adequate drying time. It's certainly not a project that can be rushed. I stuck her in front of a heater for a day, a little portable heater, which kind of sped up the process after I finished up her arms. And this is also, just in case anybody's curious, this is also a material where you can't necessarily use tools on when it's wet, like you could clay, because you've got to constantly be pushing inward when you're forming the celluclay. Otherwise, pieces or chunks are just going to come off. So it's definitely something that you have to use your hands with. You have to be pushing it in constantly. You can't really sculpt it like you could clay. So, just in case anybody's curious. The arms kind of came out a lot more lumpy than the rest of the body because I was working, you know, it's hard to get your fingers in there to form the celluclay because of our armpits. You know, it's a tight crevice. I have chunky fingers. So her arms are quite lumpy and need a lot of work. And you guys can ask me any questions you want about, if you you guys have any questions, you feel free to ask me and I'd be happy to answer. You know, I've read the instructions on this stuff, and it says that you can you know, make a small batch of it, and if you have any left over, you know, just keep it in a sealed Ziploc, and it can be stored in the fridge for up to 2 weeks. What I've found is that, no, the paper won't get moldy, but what I've found is it's not nearly as moldable. You know, it's much harder to work with the day after it's been made. So I'd suggest making just enough, you know, for your needs, because it just doesn't feel the same. It doesn't work the same as when it's freshly made. And it's not like it's a hard thing. It's not like it's a hard thing to make to begin with. So I'd suggest, you know, doing as small amounts as possible, is for that you're sure you're going to use. And then if you end up needing more, it's basically as simple as throwing a small clump of it into a bag and adding a little bit more water, and then there you go, you've got some more made. So it's like, no, it won't go bad. The instructions are correct, but it just does not work the same. It does not feel the same. See, here's a chunk that came off. It's just because I hadn't molded it quite as tightly as it should have been, because I couldn't get my fingers in between her armpits. What I'm cutting into right now is some E6000, because I accidentally ripped off an arm when I was adding the clay, or adding the Celluclay to her arms. I'm trying to cut away some of this E6000. You see right here, I kind of made a boo-boo. I didn't quite get enough Celluclay right here. I'm just going to build that up with fabric. I'm not going to go back with the Celluclay. Just takes too much time to set up, you know, to dry out, and it's not worth it for that tiny spot. And this is what happens after a while. It gets completely clogged up and smooth. So it's definitely something you're gonna have to throw away once you get the whole thing looking like that. Alright, she's looking pretty good. I'm gonna get a wet paper towel to clean off my work surface, because of all the powder, the dust. So I've got a couple of spots on her that I accidentally touched with the wet Celluclay. Just taking the back of my knife and scraping it off. I went over her earlier with the paper towel that was soaked in hot water, like boiling hot water, and I cleaned off her chest and her arms and her face, just to get any residue off, you know, when I touched her when I was working with the wet cellular clay. But there's a spot that I missed, I saw. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint her white. I do not have any intentions of people being able to see this cellular clay under her dress, but you know, I never know for sure how something's going to turn out. So in case, I don't know, for some odd reason you're able to see through her dress or something, you know, I don't want her to see this off-white cellular clay, so I'm just gonna paint her white. Carefully. Plus it'll help seal in the clay, in addition to having sealer on her. Wasn't quite able to cut into her armpits as I wanted, but I think it'll be okay. I don't think you'll be able to tell through the fabric that her arm is literally fused to her boob. Alright, so I'm going to have to turn on the hair dryer real quick so that I can hurry up and get through this. a waste doing my nails, huh? My sloppily done nails. Okay. So, the last thing I'm going to do in this video is, this is Sculpey glaze. And I'm going to go ahead and glaze the paper mache over the white paint. I really don't have any recommendations on glazes to use. I'm using this glaze because it's one of the glazes I have, and I know it dries hard. You know, unlike Mod Podge, something like Mod Podge, it almost has like this skin. It's like the skin that you could literally peel. And this is like just hard. It's like paint. So that's why I'm using this as opposed to Mod Podge. Because it's actually, it's a hard sealer. It's not something that you could peel off if you were able to get something underneath it. I don't know. It's hard to explain. If you've messed with a lot of sealers, you know what I'm talking about. You certainly don't have to seal it. I'm just one of those overcautious people. Over glue things, over paint things, over seal things. Because this paper mache has a tendency to rip out in chunks if something ever got a hold of it, which I don't see how that's feasible since how it'll be underneath fabric, but still. And also I wanted to seal it because I live in Washington and it's very moist here. So you certainly don't want something like humidity getting soaked up into paper mache. Okay, so I'm going to stop the video here. This won't take long at all to dry, so I'll actually be back as soon as my camera charges, which takes a little while. So I appreciate you watching. Feel free to ask any questions about the Celluclay or anything. I'll try and answer it the best I can. And I was going to show you the Celluclay packaging, but I forgot to bring it to the table, so I'll try and remember to do that. The next video, if I can get this frickin' lid screwed on. Alright, thanks guys. Bye.